Time to hit the reset button there, as many of these drivers will be racing at this level for the very first time. James Roberts won't, he's on pole position. Welcome back to the front. Cameron Nelson is alongside him. Tyler O'Neill and Jaden Sherwood have a little experience in this category. Dan Minto does too, alongside Hugh Roach. Oliver Warner and Kyle McLean are on the 4th row, with Christian Stepanov alongside the talented Katie Donaldson for the Ambition Motorsport team. On the 6th row of the starting grid is JJ Lowe alongside George Speechley, then Kevin Kilbasa and Jack Baker, Adam Turacek, Olivia Reynolds, Jack Freeman and Jake Grufferty. This is a fascinating class, this one. They all have the same chassis and they also have pooled engines. You are given the engine choice out of a draw. Whichever one you select is the engine you run for the entirety of the weekend, and each weekend you get a fresh draw. You do it all over again. So it comes down to how you deal with the equipment that you're given. Everyone has the same chassis and pooled engines, so it really does come down to driver skill. Along the tram lines. Oh, well, it looks to me as though we're going to go for a false start. Yes, indeed. So the green flag with the yellow chevron has come out. That indicates that we are going around for an additional formation lap. You see the drivers gesturing to each other. We're not racing, we're going round again. It's the circular gesture of the finger in the air. They're going to go round for another formation lap because the grid was not quite correctly formed.
Yeah, you sometimes see drivers getting a bit cheeky doing that after the start,
Yes,
just to slow everybody down behind them and suggest there's been a false start when actually they are racing. But in this case, it is a false start. Let's have another look at the grid again, Jake.
Yes, indeed. So Robertson, Nelson, O'Neill and Sherwood, Minto and Roach, Warner and McLean, and Stepanov and Donaldson, followed by the remaining 8 drivers in the field. What's also interesting, of course, with the false start procedure is it gives the drivers a realization, okay, we didn't quite get that right, so let's form up a little bit earlier, which you can see for yourselves that they are. And this is obviously going to be a little bit more frequent perhaps in the Micromax than it would be in the other categories, because they're still really young. They're still trying to get to learn the starting procedure. So they'll go, right, okay, I just jumped the gun a little bit there, so we'll form it up a little earlier, back the pack up, and you can see that that is a much cleaner pair of rows, so they can come out of the final turn along the tram lines. And I think this time we'll go for a green flag start. There's still a few drivers out of position, but we're going to go green anyway. Jaden Sherwood is going for it into turn 1. As he follows in behind the 44 kart of Cameron Nelson. Nelson has ended up losing a couple of positions. James Roberts comes towards us on the 2 kart, the all-black machine, and he's going to go wheel-to-wheel with Tyler O'Neill, who has made a terrific launch up the grid. And now the rest of the field tucks away. That is Sherwood trying to get through on Cameron Nelson to battle for 3rd position. Will he make the move on the inside? Very neat and tidy. That was well planted there on the inside by Sherwood, but on the exit, that is going to be retaliation from Cameron Nelson. You're not going to have any easy overtakes today, mate.
Cameron Nelson holds on to it. That's Roberts leading with Tyler O'Neill. We know Tyler from Bambino Racing a few years ago, Jake. He was top quality performer in that. He's been in Micromax for about a year now, learning the craft, and you can see how well he's learned it. He's behind James Roberts. We know James, who was 2nd in the championship last year to Rory Armstrong, who's in Minimax now this year, although I'm saying that you won't see him in this programme because he didn't make the Minimax final.
No, indeed.
Yeah, James Roberts 2nd last year. He'll be hoping to go one better. That's Cameron Nelson picked out, running P3. And right in behind him is Jaden Sherwood, our man with the 360-degree onboard camera.
I do want to pick up the driver that's moved up to 5th position off the start, though, Katie Donaldson. She has shot through the field. She was started in P10, and there she is in 5th position. What a launch from Katie Donaldson. That's one to watch out for in 2022. If she can make moves like that off the start, then I have a feeling that we're going to see an awful lot of Katie Donaldson. There she is, coming towards us. She's making waves out there.
She's in clean air as well, Jake, so she can concentrate on trying to catch the 2 in front. Whether she will do or not remains to be seen. Well, back on board here with Jaden Sherwood.
Yeah, another new female talent then to follow in the footsteps of the likes of Jessica Hawkins and Abby Pulling, who have come through the karting ranks in recent years. But now James Roberts and Tyler O'Neill have stretched away from Nelson and Sherwood. There's Donaldson doing a fine job in P5. Looks like Hugh Roach has managed to get ahead of Dan Minto and Christian Stepanov. Minto was mighty in the heats earlier. Oh, a little bit too close together, these two. And I tell you what, JJ Lowe and George Speechley, they got away with that. As up the inside into 3rd, that is the move on from... Now, who was that getting through? Was that Stepanov on Minto? I think that was. Christian Stepanov manages to get his move on the inside there of Dan Minto for the Hunter Motorsport team. And then Kyle McLean and Jack Baker are trying to line up the same move, but Minto's having to think about it into the boot once again. The light spattering of rain that got us on the end of the senior Rotax heat has completely dissipated once again. Now Sherwood's taken himself a little bit of time here to get back on terms with Cameron Nelson. He's actually pulled back a few kart lengths to have another run at him. Now Nelson is trying to gesture to Sherwood, look, don't race me, don't overtake me, stay behind me, let's get after the leading two. How cooperative is Sherwood going to be? Well, that depends on how well he feels he can catch up.
There's some degree of sense in that, of course, because they are losing time against the two leaders, and it's the two leaders, they want to be in that battle to win the race. But I think, to be frank, Roberts and O'Neill just got too much of an advantage here.
Good defence from Dan Minto. He could very easily have let Carl McLean go there on the inside of Wilkins, but he doesn't. He holds on to his line. And that was well covered by Dan Minto, who really is putting on an excellent show so far this weekend. Was mighty in the earlier phase of the weekend. It's always difficult once you get to the final. Once you're in a rock and a hard place, you've got a lot of work to do to try and fight back. Here we go. Look at O'Neill. He's going to make his bid along Fine Lady and Manuel's Bank into Christmas, and he takes the lead. Good run from Tyler O'Neill. He planned that quite a long way back, and there's not a lot that James Roberts can do in retaliation just yet. And look at Tyler O'Neill. He's actually held his nerve into Ashby. He's pulled about a kart length and a half in terms of daylight. And if James Roberts is not careful, Tyler O'Neill will disappear rapidly.
Now James Roberts will know he can now have a look at him, and he'll probably spend a couple of laps here. He can afford to spend a couple of laps, plenty of time to go. Only 4 laps in basically, so he's got plenty of time to have a look at the man out front. You can see he's clearly got the same sort of pace, and he can pick his moment to go past, but he may get frustrated if he can't get past.
Now Sherwood's trying to do exactly the same thing Tyler O'Neill just did, come from a long way back and creep up behind Cameron Nelson unawares. And as they come up to Christmas on lap 6, it's going to be a fascinating run for the drivers again. Sherwood just can't quite find that gap on the inside of Cameron Nelson. But O'Neill and Roberts still having a great duel as they run out of Ashby's. They take that wide line. A little further back, this is Nelson and Sherwood for third. Still taking it nice and easy. Now, Katie Donaldson is being caught, by the way, by Hugh Roach. So it is 2-by-2 hurrah at the moment. It's O'Neill and Roberts for the lead. It's Nelson and Sherwood for third. And it's Donaldson and Roach for fifth.
I would say, Jake, you being a religious person, you know about the Noah's Ark and all that. We'd have, if it was Noah's Ark today, we'd have giraffes, elephants, tigers, and 2 Sodikart Academy drivers.
Absolutely.
It's literally 2-by-2-by-2.
We've even had the rain to throw into the mix as well to continue the punt, so it's all gone well.
6 drivers, 3 pairs, and all of them want to come out on top of their battle.
Cameron Nelson versus Jaden Sherwood as we continue racing here at the Formula Fans Ultimate Karting Championship in the Sodikart UKC Academy Super Final. And this is the race for third position. What is Jaden Sherwood going to do to put one over on Cameron Nelson? And further back, you've got Katie Donaldson desperately trying to hang on in front of Hugh Roach, who has absolutely stormed in behind her. And now there are going to be 3 separate battles for first, third and fifth. And further back, here it is. Donaldson desperately trying to hang on here. This is not going to be easy to hang on to. Hugh Roach is really starting to cover his bases now. Stefanov P7, then Minto, Reynolds, McLean, Warner and Baker. Turacek, and then we've got Lowe, Speechley and Freeman. Oh, that is a problem for Jake Gruffaty. Jake Gruffaty is having a little bit of a hard time there, and it looks to me as though his race may be coming to a premature end. Meanwhile, battle is still raging between Nelson and Sherwood. Nelson and Sherwood still very close to each other, and it's tough to know who is going to get the third place here. They have lost the toe of O'Neill and Roberts, who are still absolutely bumper to bumper at the moment. Sherwood trying his best. See, he's just playing the long game here. He probably realises at this point, I'm not really in the race for the victory here. I'm in the race for third position, but if I just hustle Nelson, I can have a little bit of breathing space to play with.
Yeah, but as we've said before, Jake, you want to be third in this situation, because if the 2 leaders tangle and take each other off, if you're third, suddenly you're the race leader. So Sherwood will want to get into third place as quickly as he can, if he can.
And it is going to be very tough to know whether he can do that. Tyler O'Neill out in front of James Roberts. Look at the gap back, because there's Nelson and Sherwood. Sherwood thinking about it as they go into Christmas once again. They come off the left-hand flick and up towards Inkermans. One of the toughest race circuits in Britain, Wilton Mill, especially in these greasy conditions. Formula One sensation Lando Norris regularly comes back and has a play here because it is such a technical challenge as a racetrack. You'll often see George Russell popping in through the gates as well. They really do love this place, and they grew up in classes very similar to this one. It's where you learn how you get to be a world-class racing driver. Is Jaden Sherwood going to get his opportunity on Cameron Nelson on lap 11? Come off the final turn. O'Neill and Roberts still very close to each other. But it looks to me as though James Roberts is just ticking down laps here. He's not really going for Tyler O'Neill yet. He knows he just needs to stay close enough to him to be a threat. But essentially, Tyler O'Neill is cutting through the air first, and that means that he's pushing his tyres, his engine, his brakes a little bit harder than James Roberts is. So James is playing very smart here.
Yeah, I think James will want to get past in the next lap or two. I say lap or two. I think in this next lap,
Yeah,
he ideally needs to get track position here.
Yeah.
And who knows? Has he got the pace? I think he might have gone by if he had the pace. I'm not sure he has.
They're quite comparable, aren't they? If you look at their sector times, they are very evenly matched, as are these two. Sherwood is right in behind Nelson, but there are parts of the course where Nelson is actually able to pull a little bit more time away from Sherwood.
And Roche is in front of Katie Donaldson, by the way, Jake.
Yes, indeed, yes. So Roche did get through into 5th position. There is the battle for 3rd position. Still Nelson versus Sherwood, but as you picked up, Hugh Roche has, out of the shot of the cameras, made his way into 5th position ahead of Katie Donaldson, but there's still a little bit of time left for her to get back into the top 5. How about this? Tyler O'Neill, look, he is actually giving himself a little bit of daylight between himself and James Roberts. It's like he's waited till this moment to suddenly go, right, well, I've got a little bit more pace in the car, actually, so I'm going to start to stretch away. Meanwhile, Sherwood is really going to try and make his move. He's got the onboard 360-degree camera. The car travels a little bit on the apex there through the ankle and the heel of the boot. And at the come of the final turn, they really had to stick to the road itself rather than hop over the curbs these days, because that curb at the final corner at Wilton Mill has been elevated for this season, and they really do stay off it these days. Now the battle for 3rd is intensifying because we've got 2 laps to go, so this is where the drivers are really going to be starting to take chances. Roberts will want to go for O'Neill, and Sherwood will want to go for Nelson.
Now the problem is, with 2 laps remaining, if you're in front of these 2x2x2 battles, you are now defending, because you know the person right behind you is trying to come past. So now it becomes even more difficult than it was before.
This is really good movements from Nelson, but Sherwood's going to get a better run off of Ozias and into the boot. That is textbook from Jaden Sherwood. Lines it up, perfectly timed, and there's not going to be a lot of opportunities now for Cameron Nelson to snatch it back from him. There's battles on the final lap of the race coming up by the look of it, and you can see this gaggle of karts in the middle of the field. You've got McLean, Warner, Reynolds, Baker, Lowe, Freeman. They're all going to try and pick up a place or two in the final lap, but this man, Tyler O'Neill, has bit the bullet and put his foot down at exactly the right moment, and try as he might, Roberts just can't overhaul him.
Nice lap. And I think Roberts has run out of time here. It's going to be a super lunge if he's going to take it. I think he may decide that, you know what, 2nd place, good points on the weekend. I don't think he's going to be able to do much from here.
I don't know, though. He's managing to get a little bit closer as they come up to the toe of the boot. He is going to go for the inside. Oh, they come together, and O'Neill spins. Roberts is going to take the victory on the road. But I have a feeling that Alan Bryant will have seen that. The checkered flag comes out.
No celebration. No celebration for James Roberts.
What, for Sherwood there is? He's delighted.
He loves 3rd place. He knows he's got 3rd place. But James Roberts did not celebrate as he went across the line. And I think that is because he will know that when you're the man doing the overtaking now, interestingly, Jake, should Tyler O'Neill see him? I think he should. Should he give him room? Yes, but he doesn't. No. And that is what you're risking when you don't. Unfortunately. But they're racing drivers. They do not want to give up a win.
Well, Tyler O'Neill does cross the line 4.1 seconds behind James Roberts, but after a 5-second penalty was handed to Roberts post-race, the order is redressed. Tyler O'Neill does take the win then from James Roberts, Jaden Sherwood and Cameron Nelson. Katie Donaldson is awarded 5th place ahead of Christian Stefanov after a 5-second front fairing goes the way of Hugh Roche. Then Kevin Kielbasa, Dan Minto and JJ Lowe round out the top 10. It's going to be a brilliant year in the Sodikart UKC Academy in 2022. Micromax this year is definitely going to be ultra competitive, and O'Neill and Roberts could be brilliant.
Well, excitement from those Micromax Sodi Academy drivers there. The two youngsters were out in front for the whole of it, but in the finish, James Roberts seemed to do a little move there on Tyler O'Neill that maybe the stewards will take a look at. Let's find out what happened when we caught up with them all at the podium.
What do you like about the class so much?
It's really equal considering everyone's on the same chassis, it's pulled engines and they're all dyno to be exactly the same, so it causes for some really good racing.
Yeah, just talk us through that final from your point of view.
It was a really good final, to be honest. The two leaders got away, I was pushing Cameron Nelson, and on the second to last lap I sent a move going into the boot and managed to sprint home in third.
Okay, who do you want to thank for your weekend?
Hydrate Mate, Harwood and my family.
James, it all started for you at Wombwell last year, of course, as I know quite well. Great result for you. You went across the line in first. Obviously, got that penalty for a little bit of contact going through the boot, but I guess you'd accept that, would you?
Yeah, I think it was just like it was fair in the end with the. I obviously went for the move because I thought there's a gap there, but it's a fair decision in the end to give me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there was a time when Alan Bryant, I think he's turned into an old softie. I think he'd have given you a 10-second penalty for that at one point, but he got away with it, finished second anyway. What were you hoping for coming into the weekend? I spoke to Jake Sanson earlier in the weekend, and I had you down as my championship favourite for the season. I'm still going to go with that. It's a good start to the championship season. What were you hoping for coming in this weekend, though?
I always hope for a P1, obviously, but top three, always like top three for this weekend.
Okay, who do you want to thank?
I'd like to thank my dad on the spanners and my mum back home from loads of the support from back home, and Tony and Alex for help.
Okay, well done.
Thank you.
Tyler, I know you as a serial front runner in the Bambino class, of course. You've been in Micromax, started last year, done a little bit in the class, but what a great start to 2022 for you. Just talk us through that super final.
Well, at the start it was rough because I had to stay behind him and I couldn't really overtake him. But when I got him, I made a gap sometimes. But then he came up to us, and it was a hard drive.
Yeah, a little bit of contact in the boot there. He went across the line first. Clark, of course, has given him one place penalty. I think that's fair. You think that's fair?
Yeah, it was a bit unlucky for him though. I think he probably thought that was probably a gap, and then he tried to go for it, but then his head's off. Okay,
who do you want to thank for your weekend?
My mum, my dad, ST Racing, Sodi and my sister.
Okay, well done.
Thank you.
Micromax is definitely going to be competitive in 2022. James Roberts has the point swing ahead of Tyler O'Neill thanks to his performance over the weekend. Cameron Nelson is 4 points behind O'Neill. Hugh Roach is just 1 ahead of Dan Minto. With Oliver Warner, Jaden Sherwood, Katie Donaldson, Christian Stefanov and Kyle McLean scoring well, it's very unclear, even at this early stage, if James Roberts is going to be able to run away with it. The experts seem to think it won't be that easy.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for in this programme. But do join us next time when we'll be bringing you all of the action from this, the opening round of the Ultimate Karting Championship.